welcome back to this week's video. We've been visiting my parents last weekend and the winter has hit the country. My parents don't have gutter, so you have all these wonderful icicles hanging from the housetop, and you will see glimpses of that at the end of the video again. So this week I'm drawing a European Goldfinch. They are one of my favorite animals, and since my parents happen to live near a national park that is very well known for its variety of animals, especially birds, I got to see quite a lot of goldfinches while growing up, and also they have been there this weekend, but they have been so camera shy that I was not able to capture them on camera, sadly. But being inspired from these animals, I wanted to draw a goldfinch. And this one is a male one, to be specific, because the red extends just behind the eye, and that is not the case in females. So this is probably the most prominent mark to keep them apart. Otherwise it gets more difficult because the red tones are a little different, the male ones are darker, and I don't know what, but that's the most specific mark where you can tell them apart. And an average goldfinch is around 12 to 13 centimeters, or it's, I don't know, like 4.7 to 5.1 inches long. And they like to spend the winter in Central and Eastern Europe, which is why I actually got to see them while I was there visiting my parents on the weekend. Because yes, they spend their time there and they keep munching all the bird seeds that my mother puts out for them to eat, and they're really, really, really cute. As for the materials that I'm using, the ink is the Winsor & Newton Hazel Brown. Then I'm using the Schminke watercolors, which are still my favorite. Some parts of the red and the black are painted with the Kuretake watercolors, which I just recently got, I think 2 weeks ago or something. And I like them, but they're not my favorite when it comes to mixing them. Pure, they're brilliant. They're very thick and creamy, which I'm not very used to in watercolors, but it's a pleasant surprise because you actually don't need as much while painting. And then I also used a bit of some Reeve gouache in the white, and I think parts of the black as well. Maybe some brown tones. Yeah, I think a couple of brown tones. So what I did there when painting the beak of the goldfinch, if it's ivory colored, it means that it's not presentable for mating. If the beak is purely white, I think with a sort of darkish mark on the top of the beak, it means, hey ladies, you wanna go on a date with me? Why am I using an Indian accent? I'm sorry. But yeah. Then did I use something else? The stars, as always, are painted with gouache as well, which you see at the end. And here comes the white gouache, yes. And here's the yellow gouache. But I'm not using it in a thick layer. It's really, really, really watered down just to cover parts of the ink painting to give it more of a dimensional feel. I have a certain thing going for birds, even in high school when graduating. In biology, my main topic was birds and specifically parrots. So yeah, they have always been so close to me because I can't even quite explain why. I think they are probably the beings that are very deep. They're pretty much all the time in the now. They're very present. They're very alert. Like their whole being, their whole survival depends on being alert. A tired bird is a dead bird, you know? So even if you watch them, if they're picking food, they're like picking up food and then they sit up and watch and to see if there's any danger approaching. And then they pick again, and then they watch, and they pick, and they watch, and it all goes within a couple of seconds, even. But it's not like they're complaining, you know? It's not like they're, oh my god, this life isn't worth living, and it's all so strenuous and stressful. And I haven't seen a stressed out bird. Like the way humans stress out. If we were to be in the same situation, the trauma would be real, you know? Just because the way our human mind is programmed and how we tell the story of our life, you know, and survival. Birds are also what I believe to be the closest to dinosaurs. If you look at dinosaurs and the way they're built, in their bone structure and their muscles, it's very, very, very similar to birds. It's kind of funny to imagine that probably a T-Rex might have had feathers and might have looked like the giant threatening version of Sesame Street. To me, birds are really fascinating, and they have been around for so long. All they did was kind of shrink in their size, but the general way of their living has stayed the same for many years. And they carry something ancient with them. And if we're talking specifically about the European goldfinch, there's also more significance to it through Christianity and Christian symbolism, because the goldfinch likes to eat thistle seeds, and the thistle generally is associated with the crown of Christ and the resurrection, and it's a bird of hope and stability and wisdom, actually, divination. You can often see Mary as the Madonna being depicted holding a European goldfinch, as if she was to know that the crucifixion was about to come. So, especially in Europe, you will find these paintings. Often the bird is quite small in its depiction. You can't even really see it, so it hasn't been like in my attention until I specifically started looking for it. And so since the goldfinch is a bird of hope, it's often depicted with a common fly, because the common fly depicts the devil and disease, and so the goldfinch is quite the opposite. And yeah, here's the finished piece, along with some wintry shots from my parents' place and my boyfriend. And I hope you liked this week's video, and you'll come back next week. Talk to you soon. Goodbye.